Hey there, and welcome to the First Class Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Freiberger, a former airline captain with over 10,000 flight hours, and I believe that everyone can be a leader. On this show, I talk about a simple concept called take the lead. See, leadership is influence, and take the lead is the choice to build that influence. Your intentions are invisible, but how people experience you never is, which means you can have good intentions and still land wrong with others. Take the lead is how you close that gap. We use aviation as a lens, but you don't need wings to practice it. All right, let's get into it. Well, Mike, welcome back. We're still fresh in the podcasting world, and man, if we could only record all of our conversations, which I guess you can nowadays with AI, but we would have an arsenal of podcast episodes already, but I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and record another one with me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to hash some things out or chat about all things. I know that it'd be awesome if we could have this micro mic just on us at all times so we can capture some of our conversations, because they are full of value and lessons, and really it's just shared experience though, and that's where the lesson comes in. And I'm so appreciative of our friendship and our, business relationship for what it's worth to some degree as well, because so many lessons for me have come from that. You've challenged me, you've showed up for me in different ways, you've given me space, you've allowed me time to work through my own stuff. And, when I reflect back on the last couple of years, it's come a long way, man. I'm proud. I feel good.
Gains, baby, gains.
Yeah.
Measuring I say the word leadership, right? We throw that word around a lot here, but it really just is about leading ourselves, mindset. But there is a specific way to measure progress that changes everything, right? The gap and the gain. And it's the first thing that comes to mind as we're shooting the shit here. And it really does tie into this idea that what we believe, what we choose to believe about success, what we choose to believe about our measurements, right? I had somebody in the community comment about success and what do other members define success as? And, I prompted a couple of questions in that. And the first question was, well, first off, would you rather success be something that's in your control or out of your control, right? Sounds so silly, such an easy question when I ask it that way, but obviously it'd be much better if success was in our control. And so my hypothesis that I've been testing out is this idea that, well, if success was in my control, then what would it be, right? What would I need it to believe? What would I need to believe in order for success to be something I already have or something that's in my control? And I started recognizing, well, I needed to believe that success was not external, it's internal. And then I'm like, well, what would internal success look like? What are the things I want? And no matter however many coaching calls I have or conversations I have, when I ask somebody, and I could pose you the same question, let's just run through it, because it really is a great exercise for anybody to do at any time. So if I said to you, hey, Mike, what do you want? Where do you want to be in 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. What would your answers be?
It's an interesting question, and as you explain some of this stuff, I've done some reflection recently on what success looks like for me, because I think I've always measured success in the future. And I think there's an important aspect to having your finger on a long-term vision, a goal. I don't even know if I go as far as saying a goal, but a vision for sure. But what I've come to learn recently is that I think success comes down to your micro decisions. So it's the promises that you make to yourself. Do you keep them? Each and every single day, when you have the choice between doing A or B.
I'm going to totally interrupt you here. Use I statements. Own this lesson, right? Use I statements. I don't know if we did that totally in the first episode, but so you're saying success. You're giving away your lesson right now. So just
this is my personal experience. So I when I make decisions between A or B each day, it's kind of is that in alignment with the person that I want to become? That's what success means to me. You know, am I making decisions that are in alignment with the person that I want to be, the person that I want to become? It does tie closely, though, into internal versus external. I've always defined success as external. Do I have this? Am I worth that? And that's a lot of what I'm working through right now. That there is some importance to that to me and for me, I guess. But more so recently for me, it's become more of like, am I making decisions in alignment with my core values? If I am, then that's success to me, And if I continue to do that over time, that will compound. And whatever goal, whatever vision, whatever I want out of my life, it's inevitable. I will have that. I'm already there. I'm already successful. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got some questions to
Sure.
prod you a little bit. Just going
Sure.
back to the original question, what do you want in 10 years from now?
I want the same as what I want right now, and that's more peace, more inner peace in my life, I would say. More, I guess, sound mind. I think that's very similar to inner peace. More continued development of awareness around the things that are impacting me or the things that I allow to impact me. And then more, I guess, control. I use the word control loosely, but more assertiveness to decide to take the lead over those emotions that are impacting me. And part of what I'm working on currently is like, yeah, I see this version of my life that is abundant, abundant in wealth, abundant in my marriage, abundant in having a family, I hope one day. But that all stems back, that's all rooted in the decisions I make every single day.
Name one thing externally that you want in 10 years from now.
Money,
Okay, why?
freedom.
Freedom. Can you expand on that? What do you mean?
Sure. Time freedom. I can spend more time with the people. So this is an interesting dichotomy, and I'm going to share this with you. Something that I'm navigating right now. So more freedom to spend time with the people that I love, my wife, my kids, my family, whatever. But I can also do activities that cost money. I can buy groceries from Whole Foods that cost more money because they care about my health. And I can, these finances help contribute to my freedom, but they also help contribute to really important initiatives that I deem core values in my life, like my health. Interestingly, right now, I have a lot of freedom in time. I'm very fortunate to have a job where my schedule is very favorable. I fly a very fair amount of time, but I get a lot of time at home too. So when I think about the question, I'm going to tie this in to like in 10 years, what would if I were to have my dream day, like if I were to organize my dream day, what would it look like? I live a version of that right now. So this is the tussle between like the desire for money because it equals freedom. However, I have a version of that right now.
What if you could get freedom without needing or having? What if you could get freedom without needing to have money to get that freedom?
I think it's possible for sure. I think financial freedom is different though.
One of the things that I find really interesting about this type of conversation, and kind of going back to the exercise, so one of the exercises I often do in coaching is asking this question, right? Like what is it? What is it that you want? 5 years, 10 years? Like where are we heading? And obviously you've done a lot of work on yourself, and you're answering the internal question, which is typically the opposite of what most people are answering, right? So, but that's kind of the goal. So if you answer this question, if anybody listening to this as well and answering this question, what do you want 5 years from now? And it sounds something like, well, I want financial freedom, I want time freedom, I want to experience or to explore or whatever it is. Keep asking yourself why. Ask yourself, well, why do you want financial freedom? right? Mike, you've already kind of explained why you wanted financial freedom. So then the question becomes, if you want time freedom, right, is money the only way to get there? Because what I found in my journey so far is that people often, and myself included, I used to mistake time freedom for financial freedom and vice versa. I used to think I had to be financially free before I was time free. And it's like you said, like you have a job where, you have quite a bit of freedom time wise, and I do too, I do as well. And the ironic part about my job, flying 100 hours a year and having a lot of time on my hands, is the ironic part about it is I decided to start a business. Right? So then I'm like, well, I have the time that I actually wanted. And so I started this business. And I'm like, why did I start this business? Well, it's because when I actually thought about what I was going to do at that time, I all I wanted to do was things that were fulfilling, which is help other pilots recognize and learn leadership, right? Because it's really changed my life. I mean, obviously, I want to travel with my wife, and I want to buy good groceries at Whole Foods, right? So I totally get it. And it's not that money isn't important in aspects, but the question becomes, well, what is it about the money that is important? Because if I start focusing on that and I stop focusing on the money, I might find other ways to get it instead of just thinking the money. So for myself, I can die broke, but I will have been fulfilled because the business allows me to be fulfilled. So the business could just, stay the way it is and never make any profit, but like never lose any either. Right. Obviously, if it keeps losing, I got to stop doing it. but it could like never turn a profit, yet I'd be very content and happy because I get to learn and I get to be fulfilled and I get to learn alongside other people who are also learning. And that's really helped me to like come away from this idea that I need millions of dollars, because what would I do with those millions of dollars? I put them into the business, like a lot of it, because I'd want to like grow the business quicker and help more people quicker. Right. So it's just, and it doesn't solve the problem, but then I start to recognize that if I focus on that fulfillment and doing what I really enjoy doing, then I'm going to add more value to other people. And sorry, did you just do something, Mike? It's really loud.
No. Hello?
It's
No?
like a background noise now.
Oh, really? No? Haven't done
Oh,
anything.
now it's gone away.
Okay.
Anyways, edit that out. Um, yeah, it was weird. Anyways, okay. What was I saying?
He was talking about even if you die broke, you'll be absolutely fulfilled. And if you have all the money, you would just put it back into the business so you can support and help people more.
Yeah, it's a game of trading. Like I always look at it as a game of trading value, because that's where money is. Money is just, it's not the money, it's the value of the money that we want. Like I want the value of the money. Well, what's the value of the money? Well, the value of the money for me is being able to, go travel to Italy, right? Well, what if I build a relationship with somebody and they have a private jet and they just take me to Italy for free? Well, then the value was the relationship, not the money, right? So I start to look at it that way, because and all it does is not all it does, but what it really does is it starts to amplify the opportunities to get what I truly desire without just waiting for money to be the one thing that gets me that.
I think this is the work, which is interesting. Like for anybody that desires money, that doesn't have a pulse on why they desire money. And I'll revert back to I statements here in a minute. What I've learned from that is that yes, money is a value exchange. Money is a byproduct. When you offer value into the world or you are in service of others, generally speaking, the byproduct is usually financial, among other things, right? Personal fulfillment, yada yada. However, in my experience, it's been so easy for me to tie money to freedom, tie money to passion, tie money to purpose, tie money to worth, tie money to impact. And that's where it gets foggy. Because in the past and currently, really to some degree, this is the work. Like I've allowed myself to define all of those things by money. I don't allow myself to get.
How do you define like passion and purpose by money?
So what I mean is that I don't pursue something that I'm really passionate about because it's not paying me immediately.
So you only pursue things that pay you immediately?
In the past, yes, this is something that like this is an awareness piece that I have right now. It's just like, well, I love this thing. I have this time to go and do it. Why aren't I doing it? Why don't I love why don't I love it? Why aren't I fulfilled, quote unquote, doing it? Why don't I want to spend more time at it? And I've tied that to because in the beginning, it's not paying me. I have a question for you. I kind of came up with this little tetrahedron, this triangle thing. And the 3 points on this triangle are time, money, and do what you love. In the beginning, you can only have 2 of those. If you really want to do what you love, you're not going to get paid very much at the beginning. It's going to take a long time. If you want time, you're going to have to, if you want time, cover that up. Doing what you love is out. And I'm lost on the other one here. Time, money, do what you love. If you want time, you might not be able to do what you love, and you might not make a lot of money. You know what I mean? So in the beginning, though, over time, that's why you see people that kind of, or in the past I've witnessed through podcasts, through friends, through whatever, they spend a lot of time, again, just money. We're talking about money here. They grind in the beginning. They make their money, and then they change. They sell their business. They have somebody running it for them, and then they do all the other stuff. So I just want to pause there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are we have one life, and what we choose to do with that life is totally up to us as individuals. And so I pose the question, okay, if I have one life and there's no real, like, what matters in life is totally up to the individual. All right. Obviously, there's a construct that we have to live within in order to have food and shelter and be able to live as long as we can. So there is a part of money that is important. Again, the value of money. But didn't we all start out, especially as pilots, doing what we love for very little money? Okay, so if that's true, did we grind or did we just do what we love and then over time we did what we love and we got really good at it and we added a lot of value to the industry and we added value right to ourselves. We learned a lot of lessons. We became these people who were worth more money.
For sure. And so I'm going to clarify grind for a minute. Grind simply means hard work. So yes, I would say in my early days of flying, I grinded. Absolutely. I did what I loved. I loved it.
So what
But
do
it
you
was
mean?
still
So what was hard about
hard.
it?
Pardon?
What was hard about being a pilot?
It was just it's I mean naturally it takes commitment, it takes effort, it takes hard work, dedication,
Okay.
patience when you're 17 or 16 hours into circuits and you still can't figure out how to land the airplane. It just takes resilience. It's a bit of a
Okay.
grind, no?
Okay. So what you're saying is you do something that's challenging and over time it takes resilience and it takes these qualities of a person like patience, resilience, to overcome those things. And because you do that, you become more valuable. So logically, if we work through this and if I tie this all back together, you can do what you love, right? It might feel challenging, but you need that because the challenge is what makes you more valuable, right? The perseverance, the adaptability. Now we're tying it all back to leadership. So if I become more adaptable, if I become more resilient, if I become more solutions oriented, if I get better at solving problems, right? These are all those internal skills that I developed becoming a pilot. Okay, sure, there was external skills. External skills will always limit your value. Always. You will always be limited. So my external skills as a pilot, right? I can only make so much money. So like a technical skill, like being able to fly an airplane. Okay. The actual sorry, I will rephrase that. Instead of saying external skill, I would say the technical skill. Technical skills are limiting. Like they're valuable, but they're only so valuable. Okay. Soft skills, internal skills, leadership skills, unlimited. Unlimited value. Who I have become as a pilot, who I've become in my journey to becoming a pilot was way more valuable than me as a pilot.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
When it comes to career, not entrepreneurship, you're employed. Is there a limit on the value of your internal skills?
No.
Okay, so so then so if we'll call it, if you're much further advanced in your personal development journey, in your awareness of your personal skills, or internal skills, sorry, does that deem you more valuable as a pilot than me?
Well, number one is I won't compare myself to you, Mike. Right.
No,
So
no, we're just talking about basic kind of value here. That's all. Not you versus me.
if you and I have the same amount of flight hours in a logbook, the exact same experience, exact same, and we're in
Yeah,
an interview, who are they going to hire? What are they going to look for?
that I agree with. But are you going to make more money?
Well, who's going to get the job? Who's going to get the job? The person that's in an interview that genuinely understands curiosity, who's vulnerable, who's humble, right? Who knows how to own his mistakes, who knows how to learn from their mistakes, who can share that openly, who knows how to articulate because they've lived it, because they actually know what adaptability is, they know what resilience is, they know how to manage stress, they know emotional intelligence, like all those internal soft skills. Okay, you're sitting in an interview. And this is a conversation I have with hiring managers left, right, and center. I said, well, how do you know if you had, I'll even pose this question. You have two pilots, exact same technical experience. Who do you hire? And their answers right now, and this tells us a lot about where the industry is. Their answers right now is, well, I hire the person that I feel like I could fly with. I feel like I could hang out with on a layover. I feel like I could, right? What they're saying is, well, I'm going to hire the pilot that's personable, who has those internal skills, those emotional intelligence skills, right? And the industry just doesn't know how to label it right now because nobody's taught us leadership and emotional intelligence. Okay, so are they more value? Are you more valuable if you have the internal skills? Absolutely, because you get the job, right? Two pilots walk into a job. One says, so one of the analogies I love to use as well. Two pilots get fired from the exact same job. Okay, one pilot says, "Why did this happen to me?" Right? Starts to get upset, starts to get mad, starts to blame the company, says this is a horrible place to work, it's their fault, I had bad instructors, blah, 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 right? Blame, justify, blame, justify. Other pilot says, why did this happen for me? How do I learn from this? What can I learn? What can I do? How can I improve? What are the lessons, right? What are the lessons that I can learn? Okay, 6 months later, they both go into an interview to get a job. Which one gets the job? Right? So there is absolutely value in soft skills. They both have the same technical skills, and this is where people are coming to me and they're like, I don't know why I don't get hired, right? And I'll walk them through, and I hold up a mirror, and it's hard to believe because not a lot of people are talking about this stuff. But I'll hold up a mirror, and then it's up to that person to decide, oh, maybe I should invest in my leadership. Maybe I should invest in my emotional intelligence. Maybe I should, right? Because it's not common right now. But I can tell you, if you fail an interview, if you don't get hired in an interview and you wonder why, and nobody's been able to help you, it's not because you didn't memorize the right answers. It's not because you didn't take some interview course. It's because you don't know leadership. And that's not your fault, right? It's just like anything else that we've ever had to fix in our lives. Like at one point, I'm like, oh, why can't I walk? Right? It wasn't because like I lacked the ability to. It's because I didn't know how to practice it. I had to practice, I had to learn how to walk, I had to learn how to drive a car, I had to learn how to fly an airplane. And nobody's helped. Like, I had to learn this the hard way, but nobody helped me understand that I didn't know leadership. And so those external things, those external clues, those are the clues. If you're blaming, if we're justifying, if we're failing an interview and we're wondering why and we don't know the answer, it is a lack of leadership.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let me ask you a question for the person that's in that position right now, that maybe the interview didn't go so well, they got that letter that they weren't anticipating on getting. How do they become aware that it's the leadership skills that they could be lacking?
There's two ways. So in my experience, there's two ways. Number one is uh, somebody needs to hold up a mirror for them. Okay, so they need leadership. So it's like the most, that's why I do what I do, right? I believe everybody needs leadership. I need leadership, right? Like, everybody needs it. And because this stuff is really hard to figure out on our own. It's like, you don't just try and figure out what's wrong with your car. You go to a mechanic because that's all they do is figure out what's wrong with cars. Okay? You don't try and figure out your leadership. You go to somebody who knows how to figure out leadership. So it's really effective. So that's really what I spend a lot of my time doing, right? Holding up mirrors. And I know you've done the same thing. So that's one way. The other way is just dumb luck. It's seriously, right? It's like a series of, and that's kind of, unfortunately, but also fortunately, like what I went through, recognizing over years a series of dumb luck things that happened, right? Could that have been shorter? Absolutely. But that's okay, because what it helped me understand is there's a need for this, right? So we take people from day 0 to 6 months through an identity shift that it took me 16 years, right? Because when you know the right ingredients and you know how, it's like the Wilbur brothers trying to learn to fly an airplane, right? It was very ineffective because nobody was there to teach them how to fly an airplane. But now we know how to fly an airplane really effectively, so our training is very efficient. And nobody would even think about trying to get in an airplane and flying it without training, right? And that's the mentality around leadership that we're trying to change, because it is absolutely ridiculous, right? It is absolutely ridiculous to think that I can learn leadership or that you can learn leadership without help, right? And most people have already maybe read a book or listened to a podcast, right? They've already got some help. But to be really effective, especially in aviation, where we spend $0 on leadership training and we expect our pilots to have these soft skills, right? To come to an interview and to be very people oriented and easy to get along with. That's what operators expect, but they won't, like, they're not willing to put money into investing into helping pilots learn that. They think it's a born skill. It's not, right? It's luck of the draw. How did you grow up? Did you have the right influence? Did your parents have the right beliefs, right? Or the beliefs that help serve us the best. So
Yeah, yeah. So I want to keep this rolling in the sense of like, okay, if the pilot becomes aware, like, okay, maybe this is my lack of leadership skill, or maybe this is something internal that I need to improve. Um, High level, they come to you, they come to me, they come to somebody. That person holds up the mirror, and then, you know, what can that person sort of expect? Like, what does that journey sort of look like? And yeah, tied to beliefs. How does that
well,
kind of unravel?
fair enough. I'll float this back to you in a minute because I know you've gone through this journey as well as I have. And there's a couple of key things that happen every time. And it's almost like clockwork. So the first idea is awareness, like you said. So anybody who's listening to this has the potential to become aware right now. And awareness isn't like some crazy thing, it's just a decision, right? There's this new idea, right? This new thought, right? You're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, maybe leadership is why I didn't get the job. That Whereas that's a question. That question is awareness. Okay, that's the start. Because if you're not even asking, because if you haven't asked that question before, which a lot of people haven't, right? If they've never said, oh, I didn't get the, like I go into operators and operators are like, I don't get why pilots are still doing these things. Like it's common sense. Like it's so ridiculous. And I said, hey, I totally get it, right? It's really frustrating when we have all of these, we have great technology now, we have SOPs, we got great CRM, like we're teaching it, and yet still people are making these mistakes that are crazy, right? Crazy only in the sense that we don't understand them. And I'll ask an operator and I'll say, okay, when those pilots make those mistakes and you debrief them afterwards, can they tell you what they did wrong? And he's like, oh yeah, all the time. I said, okay, so it's not a lack of knowledge? He's like, no. I said, so then what is it a lack of? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's okay. A lot of people don't know, and a lot of operators say the exact same. That's where I come in. I said, well, what if, right? What if it's not a lack of technical skills? What if it's a lack of internal soft skills, right? What would that look like? What if, right, that pilot has all the knowledge, but when they're under stress and pressure, all that knowledge goes out the window and they go blank and they don't know how to respond. He's like, oh yeah, well that's probably what happens. I said, yeah. So whoever taught them how to respond under pressure? He's like, well, I don't know. I never had any training. He's like, a lot of conversations I have with pilots is like, well, yeah, I just scared the shit out of myself a couple times up in, flying up in the bush. I'm like, yeah, but what is the lesson that you learn? It's like, well, the lesson that you learn by scaring the shit out of yourself is that there's no mistake worth scaring the shit out of myself, right? So don't be afraid to admit mistakes. And we all make mistakes in aviation. It's not a matter of being perfect pilots. It's about a matter of acknowledging the mistake as quick as possible and moving on from it, learning from it, right? I'm like, okay, well, how do you expect? So you put millions of dollars into technology for your airplanes. You put millions of dollars into SOPs and all these, you're writing this operation I was talking to, they've doubled their SOPs in like 2 or 3 years. Okay. They have more incidents. They have more incidents than they did 3 years ago. And they're coming to me for. I said, okay, how much have you guys invested into leadership training? Big fat zero, right? So you're not even willing to invest in the human being, right? You're willing to invest millions of dollars into the plane, right? We've got all the technology, but there's still a factor inside that technology that breaks down, and it's us as human beings, and we're guilty of it. No, there's nobody. Nobody is not guilty of breaking down or getting stuck in this autopilot loop, as I call it. But learning what it looks like and why it's normal and why it happens, that awareness helps us to break free from it. That's where take the lead breaks free, right? Take the lead. It's just a simple 3 words that anybody can use. But what it is it's taking me out of this fear or this threat and moving me into solutions. So if I can recognize that my brain is starting to shut down, I'm overloaded, I'm stressed, and I can tell myself, okay, I got to take the lead. And then the more I practice take the lead in the framework, now I have moves to make. Okay, I need to ask for help. I need to speak up. I need to ask for help. I need to have that. Yeah, I don't know if I started going on a rant there, but did it answer the question? I guess it was.
The question was what happens beyond awareness? What does the process look like? And I don't know if it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one size fits all.
It is and it isn't. There are commonalities, Mike. There are commonalities, big time. So when you become aware, right, the number one thing that won't happen is you won't become unaware. You're aware of it. So like anybody listening right now, you are more aware that leadership is, again, you can even say the word possibly, a factor. Okay? If you ignore that, that's ignorance. Right? You can't not be aware of the fact that, or the idea that leadership might be the thing you're lacking. So if you choose not to explore that, that's just ignorance. That's just, right? If you choose to explore that, right, now you're choosing to do something with that awareness. Okay, it doesn't mean, being aware doesn't mean you have all the answers. Being aware actually, and this is the 2 things I want to make sure people understand. Awareness is just an idea. It's an idea or a thought or a potential factor. Okay? choosing to explore that awareness is step number two. And what happens if you make that choice, that's the choice to lead yourself. Okay? It doesn't mean you have all the answers. So the second thing that happens is when you start to if you choose to explore that, you'll recognize all the aspects of your life that leadership are holding you back, that you're holding yourself back, that you're literally screwing yourself, for lack of a better word, right? And what happens then is it actually gets worse before it gets better. So you start to be aware of all the it's like you go into a mechanic and I hear this little sound in my car, okay? I go into the mechanic and the mechanic says, "Hey, we've diagnosed your problem and here's all of the things." Like it's not just one thing, which I thought it was. I thought it was just this one thing. And we go to the mechanic and he's like, "Oh, I know you need brakes, you need tires, you need this, you need that." And it starts to become overwhelming. Like, oh my God. But what we have to remember is it's way more valuable to recognize the problems whenever we can than to ignore them and think they're going to go away. So that awareness gets difficult, gets frustrating because you start to see how much we're actually in control of things that we never thought we were in control of, like our happiness and the way we look at things and our optimism. And we're self-destructive a lot more than we ever recognize that we're self-destructive by living in the gap and, being pessimistic and blaming and justifying. So those are two things that happen really quickly. And then the process after that is actually fairly straightforward. It's figure out solutions to those things that you've now become aware of. And instead of trying to figure that out on your own, right? First class leaders, what you and I do, what we do here is we've helped hundreds of pilots figure those out. So we understand like the quickest path to figuring out these solutions to these awareness problems. And everybody is unique in the sense of like maybe specifically like how they figure this out or like how it affects their life, but it's very, very, very common underneath what the beliefs are, right? Like the belief that I'm not good enough, or the belief that like whatever these limiting beliefs, they affect all of us. Like the idea of limiting beliefs affects everybody. So we have commonality, right? I want to make sure that's clear because if individually we're all different, which we are, then it gets a little scary to be like, yeah, but Mike doesn't understand my problems because my problems are so much different than Mike. I get it. That's true. But where we can find commonality is that we both have problems. That's where we can find connection. Not that I'm going to fix you and you're going to fix me. It's that we're going to explore this together because we both are putting up our hand being like, hey, we both have shit to work on.
I think too, on that note, the problems can express themselves differently. But one thing that took me some time was to truly, truly get to the root. Like it's easy to say, well, I have this problem with that person or this problem with, going on in my life. Okay, that's great. But like, let's dig a little deeper. What is actually causing? And so part of the work too is asking ourselves better questions, different questions, to kind of explore the deeper layers. And so, yeah, although the problems might be manifesting in all of our lives differently, the root problem can very much be the same or similar.
The root problem is the same.
Always?
Yes,
Always?
it is. It is. 100%.
Really?
Yeah. What's
What
the
is
root
it
problem?
then?
Let me ask you this. What's the root problem, Mike?
Well, for me, I mean, we know and this is recent and, not being good enough is the root problem, period.
Okay.
So you
Now
think
is
that
it
that's true for everybody?
so let me just clarify. Is it not being good enough or was it the belief that you're not good enough?
Belief.
Okay, very different. One was a fact, one was a belief. Okay, so who chose to believe that you're not good enough?
Me.
Okay. So every single human being in planet Earth has the ability to choose what they believe. Guess what
Correct.
the root cause is of everybody's demise?
Yes.
It's
I
belief.
misunderstood. Belief. Yeah,
Yeah.
belief is.
It's the root. It's everything stems from belief. It's belief first, behavior second. Behaviors follow your beliefs. It's like when you were talking about your definition of success, right? You were saying that if you make decisions in alignment with who you want to be, right, then you're going to be more successful. And you're already successful because you're already making decisions, right? So your belief had to be that success was defined by you aligning with decisions that you make, right? And then the behavior was that you started making decisions in alignment with who you wanted to be. And then once you do that, you look for the validation. You say, okay, well, is this working? Is this not working? Right? Why is it working? Why is it not working? And you just keep questioning that pattern. And what happens is we loop. So again, take the lead is this, we have a negative loop and a positive loop. So anytime the negative loop happens, take the lead is to break that cycle and get us into the positive loop. And the way we do this as individuals, like all these loops happen all over the place. Like I get negative loops 100%. I'm never not going to get into negative loops. What happens is two things. I do get in less negative loops the more I practice getting into positive loops, but I, more importantly, am more adaptable. So I catch myself getting in the negative loop quicker and I'm able to take the lead quicker. And that's the skill of resilience and adaptability, which nobody ever taught me, right? So now I very clearly understand how to become more adaptable, more resilient, more outcome focused, more positive. Well, it's just keep taking the lead. Like keep recognizing, keep asking the questions. What don't I know? When was I in a negative loop today? Where was I justifying? Where was I blaming? And then focusing on learning. Okay, why was I blaming? Find the root belief. I was blaming. What's that? It's hard the first few times, but it becomes a skill. So to find a root belief is not hard.
What
To
about what
find the
about
first,
so the awareness around the root belief? Once you found it, and then the active decision that I have to make every single day. Now that I'm aware, and if I catch myself falling back into the trap of that belief, the awareness around getting yourself out of it, whatever that is, making that decision. How difficult is that? For me, it's
it's
challenging sometimes. In the beginning, it's hard.
well, let me ask you this. What's the decision you're making first? What do you mean?
Well, the decision is like once you're aware of the belief that's not serving you, you have to choose.
So give me, let's use your example. You see, so one of the beliefs was like, I'm not good enough.
Yes,
Okay, why is that not serving you, first of all? Why you worked through that? You and I have talked about it, or you've worked through it on your own. Do you believe that that serves you?
that belief, no.
No. And it's actually factual that it doesn't serve you, right? Like you looked at the facts of your life and you've looked at things and you said, oh, well, like I'm actually am good enough. I've done all of these things, right?
Well, so no, I haven't really done that. Like, actually, no, I haven't done that. I've just decided to ask myself, like, why do I believe that I'm not good enough? I don't have enough reasons to validate that belief. So the byproduct of that is if I don't have enough reasons to validate it, it mustn't be true. But
Okay, so
I haven't
you're
looked at
talking
my
about the
life
new belief. You're talking about like you don't have enough reasons to validate that you are good enough.
yet, in my
Yet.
opinion. Yeah, but I also don't have enough reasons to believe that I'm not. Like that's just a belief that I've fabricated, maybe due to some past experiences, and I've allowed myself to, by letting people down, by getting in trouble in the past, by, you know, I don't know, being afraid to show up on the internet. Like, I guess those actions created the belief in me that I'm not good enough.
What was it about the actions that created the belief, though? Why do you like if you look well when you and I sat down, one of the questions, and this is for anybody here too, is I love the camcorder effect. So if you so there's stories, right? So um, beliefs are exactly what they sound like, beliefs. So then the story we make up about things forms a belief about things. So if you said, "Hey Kyle, you're a rude person," okay? Now I have the opportunity to decide what is the story I'm going to make up about what you just said. So number one is, do I believe I'm a rude person, right? And The answer is, well, I'm sure I can come across as rude, but I am not intentionally rude. Okay, so then now there's a story going on in my head, and what I need to do next is look at the facts. And the camcorder effect basically means, can I, if I had a camcorder, can I record, like, what are the facts? And the fact is that Mike said the words, Kyle, you're rude. Okay, so that's the fact. The story is whatever I made up about it. So the fact is the fact, and it's the label and the story and the belief we have around the fact that decides everything. So for you to have a belief means that you've had a lot of stories, right? And then if I asked you, well, give me one fact that you're not good enough, right? Like, walk me through one fact that you're not good enough. Give me one. Or even if you do, right, it's okay as well. So if you do, if you think, well, the fact is I don't have enough money. I don't have the $1 million that I thought I would by now. Or I anything.
I don't have one. I mean, the biggest thing for me is just caring about what other people think. But that's just a byproduct of the belief of not being good enough. If you think you're
What
not good
about
enough, you care about what other people think.
what about like what about like some of our conversations where, you felt like you've let me down? Or you felt or here's a good one. You said this at the start. You said, "Oh, Kyle, you've really
Facts
challenged
though?
me."
Are those facts though? Oh,
Well,
they are. You've challenged me.
well, let me ask you this. Can you record a challenge? What did I do? Give me one example where I challenge you.
Facilitating a workshop with first class leaders. You call me out in the middle of the workshop for the way that I'm showing up or not using I statements, for example,
Sure.
or something along those lines. And at that point, that was like debilitating for me inside. Just crumbling, text you after the workshop, say, why'd you do that? You embarrass me. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm going to quit. Like, genuinely, I did that.
Yeah.
That's an example. You challenged me
Okay.
there.
So what are the facts? The fact is
The
I
fact is
called
you
you
called me
out.
out. Yeah.
Okay. So the fact is you were doing something and I corrected you, or I literally surfaced that in front of all these people. And the story is that you believe that's me challenging you.
Right.
Challenging you is a belief. It's only challenging if you decide it's challenging. Why would So let me ask you this. What kind of person do you want to be, Mike? Do you want to be a person who's humble, who owns their mistakes, who's not afraid to share, the stuff they're going through because he believes that that's how we connect and that's how we get better as human beings? Is that the person you want to be?
It is now more than ever.
Yeah.
But before, it was as well. But my actions were not aligned with that. Or the
Okay,
story that I was
so
telling
then what
myself were not aligned with that.
what did I do? What did I see and then why did I interrupt? So instead of me challenging you, what did I actually do? Why did I call you out? Because I saw you not being the person you want to be. So love, leadership is love, man. So when I see you, like, and vice versa, I want people to call me out because I don't see it as challenging anymore. I see it as an opportunity. I see it as I see it as love. I see it as leadership. You're on this call, right? And we're recording this podcast. Is, hey, Mike, just quick, can we? I don't want you to give away your lesson. Like, use I statements. I'm not challenging you. I'm literally saying, hey, Mike, if you and I want to like drag this out, right? If we want to talk about it again, we're doing this because we've done this in the past. I said, hey, Mike, when you use use statements, right? And we've worked through this and you think about, hey, you just gotta like, I know when you like deal with money, you gotta like think that like, money is like not the biggest thing in the world. And then you gotta like, is that the person you want to be? And it's a very clear no, right? So all I'm doing is helping you recognize when you're not being the person you want to be, right? And helping you align with the person you want to be. which is what you want. And if you believe that it's me challenging you, then the negative threat loop kicks in, right? You text me after that. You say, "Oh, Kyle, why'd you do that?" We mended our relationship, but I've called you out in the middle. I'm calling you out in the middle of a freaking podcast, right?
I
And you
know.
don't, and it doesn't
I
bother you
want to share.
anymore.
Yeah, I want to share a lesson from that in real time, because for anybody that is listening to this, the improvement is, I mean, the eventual, I think, goal is to be able to just, I don't know, live in some sort of zen for those that kind of align with that. But in that very moment, right, 45 minutes ago when you called me out, the very first thought that went through my head, this is as honest as it gets, is we're only 5 minutes in and he already
Here
called
we
me out.
go.
That was the thought. But the very next thought was that was out of love. That was out of leadership. That was, and so how can I take the lead right now? Yeah, be humble. And I haven't thought about it since.
Yeah.
But before, like the old version of me would have like still been thinking about that. How am I going to show up the rest of this podcast? I'd be overthinking about how I'm speaking, all these things. And so again, just for those listening, I'll walk away from that thinking like, yeah, that's growth, man. That's the work. That's improvement. That's really cool to experience it in real time. I just chose in that moment not to believe that, well, Kyle's making me feel not good enough again.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And it took it's so hard because I'm working on my beliefs about how to support you. Cause I would watch, I would say something to you and I'd watch the reactions and I'm like, like part of me wants to be like, Mike, you're good enough. Mike, you're good enough. But it's useless because I could tell my wife she's beautiful. If she doesn't believe she's beautiful, it doesn't matter what I say. Right. Like our internal thought and beliefs about ourselves matter more than everything. It's so true. Like you could have 100 people, right? I could put a hat on and walk outside and ask 100 people, "Hey, what do you think of this hat?" And I get 100 different opinions, right? Some would like it, some would hate it. There's guarantee, right? It's almost guaranteed that not 100 people would like the hat, or not 100 people would dislike the hat. So if that's true, then how do I know who to believe about making a decision? This is why decision making, I had this conversation with my dad this morning, was why decision making seems so hard to people. Because if you take a group of 100 people who don't have the same values, and this is the kicker, you'll get 100 different answers on a decision. But if you take 100 people and you first make sure that they have the same values, right, they will make the same decision, or at least closer decisions. So you think about flying, right? Two pilots. If one pilot cared about safety and one pilot doesn't care about safety, right? They're never gonna align. They're never gonna make decisions. Yeah. So just making decisions. If you and I, like right now, you know, let's say like we talked about that old you and that new you, right? The new you, like we're really quickly making this decision. We're not even having to talk about this anymore because the decision is clear that Mike wants to align with who he wants to be and take the lead as what you and I share in agreement and like the values. So like we agree in our values, so the decision became just super easy. This wasn't a big long conversation about whether I should have we can talk about how I can do it better, but it wouldn't be from a position of judgment. It wouldn't be from a position of like, hey Kyle, you shouldn't have done that. It would have been like, hey Kyle, I appreciate you doing that. Here's another way to help me, maybe even better, right? It becomes very, very outcome and solutions focused instead of right defending, blaming, which is typically what happens when we get that feedback or we get that real time moment.
So just one question for you. I know you've mentioned the word blame a couple times throughout this conversation, and how do you recognize if you're blaming or justifying?
Well, I mean, if it was, it is pretty simple. If it's hard, number one thing is it's hard to do in the moment. It's hard to recognize in the moment. There are key indicators, and there's more and more that I'm learning. One of the best ways to do it is to debrief yourself every day and look at the day and ask yourself very I'm just trying to think if there's a one size fits all, but I don't think there is. Blame and justification sound like words like, "Oh, you just misunderstood me," or "That's not what I meant," or you know, like literally when you said, "Hey Kyle, you really challenged me," that's actually justification and blame, right? Even if you don't intend it that way, but it is, right? If you think about that, anytime you think somebody else or something else dictated your internal state, you are blaming and justifying. And it feels so justified because it could be true in the sense that if I'm in a like if somebody calls me asshole, right? It feels justified to be like, well, if they didn't call me that, then I wouldn't feel so bad. It feels justified, but it's not true because the only reason you feel bad is because you believe that you are, right? It's that you believe whatever came out of their mouth. It has nothing to do with them. So it's a really, yeah, it's a really clear kind of way, but there's obviously like learning to recognize the identifiers of blame and justification. I mean, I made it a goal last, I don't know, a couple months ago. I was like, okay, I'm going to find five things I do in my life, five verbiages, words, whatever phrases that indicate blame or justification over this next 30 days. I found them all on the first day when I was looking for them. When I wasn't looking for them, right, I thought it was harder. But when you look for blame and justification, you'll see it all over the place. And then it gets a little overwhelming because you're like, oh crap, I do that a lot. But just pick one. Just pick one, talk about it, work with it, practice it, and then come up with new ways of instead of saying, oh, I should have done, like that's literally blame. I should have done. You're literally blaming yourself, right? And instead of that, to say, I am learning too, right? So just take that one and practice it. Don't try and practice them all, just that one. So every time I catch myself saying I should have, and this is again where you can't catch yourself in real time a lot of times. It gets easier sometimes, but a lot of times it's in your debriefings at the end of the day. It's like, oh yeah, I said I should have over here. Okay, I am learning to. I am learning to, and just you got to keep practicing it because that shift is a skill.
Tough. I just want to caveat it with one thing too, and I'll get your opinion on this. Um, I don't think blame and justification is a get out of jail free card for walking around without taking feedback or without being open to constructive criticism, we can call it. Would you agree? Like you can't walk around if someone calls you an asshole, like no one's calling you an asshole just because. Like there's an element of blame justification that you either believe it or you don't. Um, but if somebody called you that, like why? Why? Did you do something that caused that? Is that warranted feedback? Maybe the asshole word is not the right word or example, but is it
Hey Kyle, you're
warranted
rude to
feedback?
me, right? Or hey Kyle, you challenged me, right? Like I like when I asked you questions around that, you basically told me that what you believed about yourself. And then you by default you stopped blaming me because you recognized that, oh well, I wasn't in alignment with who I wanted to be and Kyle helped me with that. So oh yeah, Kyle like loves and helps me, right? So yeah, it's that practice that you're saying is the solution to blame and justification. So it's not like we won't do it. It's just that recognizing it sooner is going to help you take the lead and be a better leader. You're going to be a more positive influence to the people around you and yourself. The more and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. Just like, our conversations, sometimes it'd take a day or two for us to cool down, right? And then now it's pretty quick to recognize, and we're like, oh, well, that's probably not what you meant, Kyle. Or let's talk. We need to talk about this further because right now I'm feeling like you're attacking me or whatever, right? And so that's the process. It's not the answer that matters. It's the process that matters. How we deal with these things. So it's not having the answer to how to never justify and blame. It's the process of recognizing blame and taking the lead. That's it. Yeah. Awesome, Dad. This is a long one, so let's call it there, and keep the conversations going on another one.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for today. Appreciate all the lessons as usual. And yeah, we'll talk to you real soon.
Awesome. If you got anything out of this podcast, yeah, leave a comment. If you have any questions for Mike or I in these podcast episodes, leave them in the comments as well. And we'll see you next time. That's it for this episode. If something in the conversation landed for you, consider taking the lead and sharing this episode with a friend. And please consider leaving us a review while you're at it. The more reviews we get, the more people we can reach and help take the lead. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.